Thanks for every presenter's wonderful presentation of today. And well, it's my duty as a moderator to moderate the whole conversation into a certain kind of channel. As we know that today's our topic is transdisciplinary educational turn and institutional art. So I guess there's a kind of intersection with it, which is can be realized through a performative discursive practice, which is happened in I would say in curating since 1990, and of course that has to kind of go back to the legendary exhibition that when attitude become form, Harold Zeman curate in '69, and as I see a lot of presentation of the day, it's pretty much although we have a different kind of interpretation and different kind of idea around it. For example, in Raqs Media, thinking about this multiplicity of meaning, intersection of a different kind of meaning making, and of course in ruangrupa's presentation, talk about the museum as a kind of a extended living room, and kind of and they realized that curation is actually a limitation instead of emancipation. So, and of course, here goes to Joe's presentation about all this performative, relational aesthetic art that seems 90. And one cannot ignore the fact that since 90, all of this kind of debate with curation, especially from Nicolas Bourdieu's relational aesthetic, a lot of debates already happened. And Claire Bishop, the participatory art and things like this. So I would kind of use it as a kind of opening gate and leading to everyone's presentation. Of course, here goes Kenjiro's idea about architecture and museum, and with Feng-Rong's idea about performance, how it engaged with the museum practice and so on. So I would like to kindly ask you a response to the idea of the topic of today, transdisciplinary educational turn and institutional art, and then bring it back to the political dimension of it. And there will be our, as a job of moderator, would kindly ask you, everyone, to sort of to respond to that. And everyone have like 3 to 5 minutes, very short time, and then we open up to the discussion.
好，那刚刚跟洪章讨论过，我还是继续讲中文。那其实我这边其实观察到今天非常有趣的这些分享就是在于其实像 Raqs Media 跟 ruangrupa 他们其实在于创作者的角色去思考这个知识体系如何透过这个意义的蔓延持续的在创造。那ruangrupa 这边他们一直不断的在松动体制这样子的一个状态跟思考试图打破框架。那有关于萧淑文跟谢丰荣以及 Hosaka 这边的分享，他们在一个体制机构的这个策展人的角色，那试图透过各种不同展演的这种可能性，或者是这种混合性的这种艺术表现的形式，开放更多不同的这种元素进来哦。那我这边其实会比较好奇，想要提问的其实会关于2大部分哦。一个部分就是在于说我想要很好奇，想要知道说对于Raqs Media 或者是 ruangrupa 他们接下来他们要进行这种不同的这种艺术节的策划，包含了像Documenta 或者是像爱知3年展，那他们这样子一种意义的打开跟知识体系的这种创造，如何在一个这样子的一个比较是艺术节，或者是这样子一种机构所举办的这种或者是说在一个国家体制里面所举办的这种艺术节的状态里面，他们要怎么样也不能说收敛，但是组织成为一个展演，在不同的城市里面发生。那对于淑文跟丰-荣还有 Hosaka 这边我其实是很好奇，就是说到底在一个机构里面， 这些不同形式的展演，它的这个 boundary 就是它的这个界限，到底可以被 push 到什么程度？我们到底可以容许什么样子是所谓最大的可能性？那或者是说，是不是有所谓最大的可能性的这些存在？
Hello. See, since there was a genealogical thing, I think one interesting point that one can tease out, because you're talking about a very complex terrain, is that 2002-2003, with the 2002 Documenta and 2003 Venice Biennale of Bonami and Documenta of Okui, and they had a huge team. Both had a team of 5 to 6 people working with them. Very, very established, very interesting group of people, scholars, curators. There was a big critique of both in the art world. Outside that it globalizes, outside that affirmative conversation, there was a critique. The critique was that they have increased duration and labyrinth. That was the critique of Documenta. And the critique of Bonami was noise. That there is no ability to see art anymore. Noise has taken over. And these two critiques, I think, stayed in the art world. And what happens is that there is a critique that the curatorial becomes highly subjective space, so it has to be moderated, and the viewer is brought into question, that there is no appreciation of art. So what happens is that enters the collector's subjectivity. So what happens, a space of desubjectification of the curatorial is made. So the curator should not show its subjectivity, should kind of withdraw and let the art speak, let the people see art. And the subjectivity question, which remains, like however expertise you may develop, always the question of human subjectivity and art will remain. Human subjectivity on any plane will remain. That shifted in an interesting way to the collectors. Now we go to a Pinot show to see art as without threshold, like art has shown. And this is an interesting thing in China is that the collector present themselves unmediated art. Art that does not need mediation. And museums are burdened with mediation. So there is a kind of strange shift in the way the subjectivity of society is expressed. One is the excessive pedagogy and history and context and narration. And on the other is devoid of all, unmediated, almost at the realm of the transcendental, the spiritual, like art unlimited, you know. So this split, which is actually staged in the last 20 years, it's a split that happened in front of us. Like it happened, and interestingly, 2002, 2003, we know a little bit, we followed all the debate because we were part of it as artists. And this split remains now, and now it is, what is interesting is for us when we are doing curatorial work, we are actually dancing around this split. You are trying to actually position a highly subjective reading of the field of art. You are actually then not talking of art anymore. You are expanding the field, you are redefining the field continuously, so that you can retain some degree of subjectivity and a subjective experience, and yet being able to bring other set of priorities that may inform us in an interesting way without getting pedagogically trapped as the museum are increasing. I think museums will be seriously pedagogically trapped. Performance is one way out, but they have to really find out many other ways out. The participation in performance won't solve the problem. It is just addressing the problem. All of you address the problem brilliantly, but I think the problem is much deeper. It is the last 20 years splits that has happened.
No, I just want to add on to that. It was interesting for me today. I don't know if this was how the conference intended it, but what I found interesting was that because of this, what you're posing, this sort of the museological kind of new condition of the pedagogic or the excess of, which is what has been discussed, like how do you make A, audiences come, B, audiences stay, and C, make them actually pay attention to. I mean, one is of course when they use it as a selfie studio, which I thought was really unexpected, but in which they are showing another kind of agency, which is another kind of performance, of course, a different kind of disorderly performance. But I thought it was interesting how both the collectives in this mise-en-scène of the conference were both coming from a way of looking, of approaching things in a more lived, how does one think life kind of question first. And I think this might also be saying something as to why we get invited in situations where an event like a biennial or a triennial or documenta, they are kind of intensities of experience. That's what they are structured like, unlike a museum, for example, which has its own kind of rhythm. But because these are short, intensive, in a way we are, both it is, I think, the desire to escape old dichotomies. So you invite collectives in order, because they will come from a completely, like they are collectives because they believe life should be of a certain kind. And they bring that energy with them when they're thinking about what intensity of time can be for an art event and an art experience. And I'm not saying that this is, but I think it's maybe looking another direction to the whole dichotomy that it has been coming out today between the institution on the one side and the public on the other, and the modes that are found, because it did seem like a lot of the time as you said actually, that participation is not going to solve the question, but in one way it is addressing the question.
Thank you. Thank you. No, because yeah, it's really that's why also even we always thinking about like even like the word participation is also really problematic, because it has this temporality in itself in that word, and also a distance, which is it's actually it's not like that. For example, in our practice, I don't have the words, but because we actually like the whole slide is actually we didn't show it, but it's actually like really about living in. It's just like really living in with the neighborhood. So it's like so it's this. That's why I said about the wall, because like how is it possible? Sometimes actually I'm afraid to say something because and then like the whole thing would be falling down, including schools, because like we can see, I mean, like how art school is actually produce what kind of species of artists. That's really a problem, and also markets, and also art economic fundings. Can you imagine like all the fundings, state, international funding, sponsors, for example. Just like this is just like really small example. It's actually based on production. Exhibition also is always based on production rather than a process, for example. Which is so this is like exactly it's a long trap, which is the whole structure is actually built on. So when the question coming out raised, like, what's the role of art today, like what art can do, it's actually, I think it's already like that word, or like that question is actually like the most insecure questions. Suddenly art doesn't, I mean, we have this like huge investment on biennales, events, museums, and then suddenly we go back to that like really super basic what art can do. I think this is super problematic. I think that we should really think about how maybe not the art can do, but like how is actually the like art institution really have to rethink how they work, and also how art should produce. I think so. And when we think about how art should produce, and then that's why I mean, like we really have to rethink all how the art education actually should also work on. But go back to Documenta, for example. That's more or less what we taking on, we have sort of like two wings, which is going to be in dialogue. One is actually we're trying to shift from institutional critiques into institutional building, which is we're going to make sort of a lot of resource spot or lumbung in many places. Hope not many, but it's going to be quite some. And then there's going to be the challenge is going to be like the translation again. I don't know. I remember when we had this interview with the jury, for example, like one of the jury will ask like, so is there going to be exhibition? So because we come up with the way of working or mechanism or like protocol rather than a theme, which is like a center theme, and everything is actually react to it. So we work with values. We set up a values and then we set up a protocol. So that's that one thing. No, there's a lot of things we're going to work on. That hopefully we have some time to do that. Like for example, again, like how the art economic works now, which is I think we have to really rethink on that. Like for example, I mean like how artists nowadays survive is actually most of the artists is actually by selling the artworks, which is like selling products, like selling artworks, which is it's like maybe the oldest like the oldest form, you know, like you produce something, right? You sell and then you got the profits, which is like really a super sort of like a really super old model, and then now we still do that. I think we should also really rethink how this art economic it's been running. I think we should rethink like the other model, or like at least speculation, because for now I don't think it really works, because otherwise we're going to again end up in that question. I think that question for now is like maybe the most expensive question what art can do. It's too expensive.
Yeah, just want to add what others state before. They, in preparing Documenta, 10 of us, luckily there was only one of us from these 10 persons who ever visited Documenta before. So the rest, 9 of us, we've never been to Documenta. So yeah, we know Documenta is an event and it's happening in Germany and blah blah blah. But yeah, it was only one of us, and it's good for us. It's good for us. And suddenly we got this thing. Regarding to your question that how do you transform an art event from one city to a different context? So again, we always work this notion that based on, as I mentioned before, the universal values of human being. And then one of the things that we really like to do is hanging out. So just like in Sonsbeek in 2016, when we work on Sonsbeek 2016 in Netherlands, we set up Ruruhuis. It's like a place where we absorb and grab all the potentials, knowledge, human, also everything around Arnhem in the Ruruhuis that we set up months before the D-Day of the up until the closing of Sonsbeek. So yeah, and also the most frequently asked questions that we always have is how to be a member of ruangrupa. And we up until now we've never been recognizing this membership concept. So because we're not on paper we are a foundation, but on paper, yeah, but on paper we are a foundation, but in a in a social life, we consider ourselves like a bunch of people who have been hanging out for almost 20 years, and then we still keep thinking that we still doing this hanging out till maybe in the coming years that we still can do it. Thank you.
先回应洪章问题，我想参与式艺术这件事哦，就是说，应该这样讲，就是说，为什么有这么多的艺术转向？我想应该，我想法倒是因为讲到刚才这个大哉问，就是艺术能做什么？那我想一开始有这个所谓的 live art 或 live exhibition 在美术机构，我想西方可能这个近20年一直在发展这一块。我想应该是一开始应该不是所谓的audience orientation， 但是因为时代的一个不断的在不同，那我想在现在的所谓的新自由主义的一个风行之下，或者说所谓的经济主义的一个所谓的一个架构之下，就像我刚才讲，就是说。美术机构，或者说尤其是公营的美术机构，它涉入了所谓的社会维度这件事情，那么他就会去问说，最大利益是什么？那这最大利益是观众，还是所谓的美术馆，还是所谓的公共性跟公众性这件事？当然，这也涉及到所谓的教育在机构所发挥的这个影响力，那或是一个链接，或是延展性。那我要讲就是说，这个所谓的不管是它叫做参与式，或是Bishop 讲的代理式展演，譬如说艺术家他可能 hire 不一定是 professional 的 team， 或是说一个素人演员去做一个展演，那么这样子类型的本身就是充满了政治性，因为这是一个集体作者。那么集体作者之于个人作者，他会有一种所谓的一个紧张关系，那么这个紧张关系未必是一个对峙，只是说位置的不一样。那么作者必须，譬如说艺术家必须面对所谓的多样的观众，或是所谓的个人的行为的难以掌控。那么还有涉及所谓的操作跟被操作，谁是被操作？是观众被操作吗？还是作品被操作？那么在这样子的一个状态之下，很多人说 OK， 走向观众是艺术的民主化，但是民主真的等同于所谓的这样子这个类型的所谓的参与式艺术吗？那我还是会打一个问号。那只是说从一个政治面向来讲，就是说这样参与型的这个艺术呢，如何的譬如说作品。观众或是一个参演者，或是跟作者，就艺术家本身之间，他们如何的共存，如何的对话？那么，譬如说，观众的介入究竟是一个创造性还是破坏性的行为？它充满了一个非常高的风险，非常不确定的一些因素。所以，在一个形塑的一个过程，最后长成什么样子？那我想，这个其实是艺术最有趣的地方，就是说，它没有一个明晰性，没有一个明确性。那我想很多的，不管你悲观也好，乐观也好，或是机构扮演什么一个角色也好，那应该是说我们现在活在一个什么样的时代里面，我们共同面对了哪些问题，共同面对了哪些议题。那建构一个，就像譬如说在社交场里面，我希望建构一个你们、我们、他们的一个世界。那这个世界可能是充满了歧义，但是通过作品，到底究竟是艺术家表述了他的立场呢，还是所谓的大家是一个共同立场的表述？那到底这个最后的一个是为了所谓的特定价值在辩护？那这个特定价值究竟是什么？我想这都是充满了政治性。谢谢。
我觉得现在来说，就是说我们在强调一种关系，然后一种参与，它其实是一种主流。以现在来说是一种主流，从过去来说，它可能是一种非常具有批判性的一种想法。然后特别在现在这种所谓壁垒分明的一个时代，它会被认为是一种一帖良药，一种口号。但是说实在，要去喊去做，说我们要做这件事情， 它很容易，因为其实我们跟很多艺术家合作过，每个人都有那样子的想法，但是有谁能真正去执行这件事情，这其实是一个关键。所以，它一方面在解决艺术内部结构的一个问题，另一方面它也这样在处理跟观众之间的一种关系。那刚才其实大家都提到，就是说艺术究竟能做什么？哦，其实在这一次刚结束的 RAM Highlight 里面，其实我自己是蛮惊讶的。因为其中有一个项目叫岛屿酒吧，就你们最后看到这个部分，其实他给我的一个反馈特别的好，就是我在里面我看到观众他的一个参与程度跟以往他有一个非常大的一个区别，哦，所以某种程度我们当然以往我们去谈艺术到底有没有什么效用，我们其实会说。艺术只是要提出问题，它并不会给你一种解决方案，它也并不会最终帮你解决什么问题。但是为什么我们可以去想说，为什么它不会被解决问题？因为其实我刚才前面讲到一个，我觉得可能特别在上海吧，我对于这种所谓资本主义这个环境的这种挑战，带给我们的一个困难是感受特别深刻。就像我前面讲到的。你任何再有批判性的东西，它很快的会被消费，然后你很快的，你就会发现各个展览、各个东西，它都在谈说，哦，这是一种过程，这是一种观众参与。我记得我们以前刚做这种，比如说跟观众说，哦，这个艺术家他的作品是一种过程，然后他们是一种盲目的表现，过程到底什么是过程？但是现在它已经变成一种。甚至已经变成一种可以被消费的一种口号，就是原本它是一种反的一个批判性的东西，它很快就又被消费了。所以这个东西我觉得才是要最注意的。就是说，比如说，我觉得像岛屿酒吧这样子的一个项目，它起到了一些作用的时候，它马上就有另外一个危机，就是它有可能商品化的危机。但是我并不是完全就是说，艺术跟商业不能产生任何关系。但是岛屿酒吧这个项目真的做完之后，就有一个人来问我，就说要不要到我那边做成常态性的演出？因为大家可能不太了解，就是其实在中国近年来这种所谓沉浸式体验是非常非常盛行的。之前最一开始 Sleep No More 大概2年前，在中国有一个定番演出，固定的场所演出，迅速的就有其他。同样的模式所去模仿出来的各式各样的故事，甚至在2线城市都已经整个展开了。所以我要说的就是这个危险，就是说好，如果当它变成一种商品化的时候，我们再怎么重新去看待这些问题？先说到这边。
Okay, let me answer quickly. So now we have some questions, and one is what can art do? So he said that is the most expensive question. So I think that is interesting. And but I think we have to doubt about the art, the notion of art. So when we ask what can art do or what is art, at the time, so most of the people don't doubt about art. So they don't doubt about if art exists really or not. So they believe there is art. But I think we know so art is very artificial things, and the notion of art is very artificial and historical. But before we have art, we have only the design, or we have only creations, or we have only design for the solutions. And I think we have to back to such kind of situation. And I think maybe so. I'm Japanese. That is why I think so, because you may know in Japan before 19th century, so we don't have notion art. So it means that there is no artist before 19th century. So there is only the painter, there is only a sculptor, but they don't think we are making the art. No. So we make only painting for someone. Maybe so for the power people or for the citizen or anyway. So there is no notion about art. And I think at least in Japan, we have to back to think about such kind of situations because, how to say, the art has so much power now, I think. So that is why I curate sometimes the architecture show, and I also curate or study the art route, outside art, as you know. So that is made by the non-professional people and who don't care about the, how to say, the tendency or the mainstream of the art history. So they make for themselves. So they don't think that is art. They think that is only the, how to say, result or things. And I think we have to think about why the human being makes something, and why does human being make or want make something better than before or something like that. So that is a kind of answer for you. So you ask me when we push the boundary, is there any the maximum possibility? So that is my answer. So maybe we can make a museum of, how to say, the museum of nothing. So that is why I like the notion or the name, the M+ in Hong Kong. So they don't call themselves a museum, or they don't call themselves a center, or they don't call museum of something. So they call only the M+. So I hope you will have the future of the, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for everyone's response. Now we open up for a question. And
in political terms, we always say that it's about actor, agenda, and arena. So as a curator, when you receive the artworks, would you, if it's not reflective, provocative, not touched enough, would you take them in before you ever seen them before in other occasions? Or how would you define an artwork is filled to deliver the purpose? Thank you.
Specifically to answer your question? Or?
No, just for any of those who would like to respond on the context.
Good question. The thing is that this prefix, you know, like in America, everyone is African American, Indian American, Korean American, you know, like that. And there is only very few American. The president seems to be one. So there is a way, like when you are working curatorially, you do get trapped in various prefixes, but there is this, some are outside that prefix. So the prefixes are not bad in that sense, you know, like, because they actually tell you a certain different ways in which people are entering the threshold, something called the art, you know. How they're entering may come with this prefix. There is no clear entry. It is not a seamless traffic that people just enter, you pass out, you enter. It doesn't work like that. It works through a very complex thresholds, and there are very many complicated routes and detours by which you have to enter. So in that sense, it is not that you are searching for those things. You are examining those things, examining what prefixes have got attached to what practice. There is a lot of fantastic practices that get, say, you call them community art, you call them activist art, you call them social art, and then they kind of lose their valencies, but you look at it from another point of view, and you look at which interstices that they are operating on, and then you realize there's something else was happening. You know, and like in Chicago, Jan Vanes, which was in Philadelphia, she did this one-year project, which was around the whole history of Philadelphia, and in a way, it could be called a kind of community art, social art. But when a museum does it over 9 months, and the terms have already changed, so it becomes a different kind of practice, and suddenly comes into a discursive visibility that is not there before. But then it is not portable also. So there is a lot of these questions that come along with these prefixes that are actually important questions by which we all actually encounter, and the whole domain of the art. You know, in universities you will find massive heterogeneous group of students entering, and you will find them naming their disciplines through prefixes, and some name their discipline through just the subject. There are few people who will say, I'm doing particle physics. But if you ask a student in a smaller university somewhere, they will say, I am working on this. It is not that they are not doing particle physics, but they think that particle physics has been done by someone else, but they are contributing to it. But it is, and that what they are doing may be of a very high order and actually is particle physics, but they are not naming it like that. I think in art it also works like that.
Thank you very much for this very interesting set of conferences. I would like to come back to the question of reductionism that you were mentioning during your talk, of stating that museums remain a form of reductionist institution, no matter what. And I just wanted to share a thought that I had at the time, which is I was thinking, but in a way, any kind of representation involves a form of reduction. And representation, I mean, I'm taking a very basic example. A photograph is always going to be a representation of a space, but also the sacrifice of the third dimension. And this applies to any form of representation, whether you take it on a political level, like the mayor of a city represents the city, but is not the entire city. On the scientific level as well, a model represents a phenomenon, a set of phenomena which are complicated and intricate, but is not the phenomenon itself. And since we're working with this question of, I mean, museums are a key place to work with this question of representation, and that representation is inherently reductionist, I wanted to ask you, like, rather than stating this kind of reductionism, what are the exact points of reductionism which are problematic for you and that you especially want to work on?
I think to be immediate, for example, it's actually one of the moment, the experience-based, the temporality of the event, of the form, I think can be also one of the solution. But again, we still work on that a lot, actually, how to do that, because we're going to work a lot with those kind of transformation and then replacement, displacement as well. That's why I'm talking a bit about how try to transform from a representational to occupation, for example. So it's like so it's going to be like really I don't know if you you know, in farming, when you put when you cut a little bit, you make a cut and then you put another grafting, yeah, for example, and then it will grow on something else, right? So so I think that will be an interesting model for example, not to occupy but grafting. Like, for example, what we think, for example, for Documenta, let's say, like really bringing, like, occupy or like one existing platform and then chop into and then put it like another model, like, for example, education or school model in outside Europe, and put it in Kassel for a year, for example, or like few months, and then see how it will grow, how it adapt, and then also, so it's going to be, we are thinking that it's going to be sort of like a collection of models, and our challenge is actually how to sew it together and intersect together and make sure that it's actually every unit or every project is actually in conversation into each other, rather than react to one or illustrating a theme, which is actually most of the trap of curating is actually illustrating the theme and subject. That's why the selection come about, like deleting and also including, include and delete. It's actually because of that, right? What about if we change that practice into something else? So that's one one thing that we try to do. So like for example, if the previous documenta will leave a monument or sculpture or works, what we are thinking, hopefully, it will leave some system, some models. And also it will work as a lumbung as well, as a collective pause. So people actually can go there and then also take, and then also and also plant and in a different way as well. To answer your question, if we think about the museum, I don't know, somehow I was thinking like, can it be like that as well? You know, like can it be? It's not even organic. It's actually just like what did you saying? Actually, like a museum without what? Without nothing. Which is Nikos is actually writing about that, museum without art. So it's actually like really about open space, which is actually generate and regenerate within itself. So again, it will be really interesting if we like really break it down into structures, actually, which is it will be super anarchistic, of course.
Actually, we have plenty discussion and on the idea of actually on what museum can do and cannot do.
On to it so something. Yeah. So as Ade said, the word hopefully we can make it and then we can bring it into reality. So to do this, we are inspired a lot by indigenous knowledge, what we know from Indonesia, and then of course we will also try to find it in somewhere else. Because one thing that we are sure that some knowledges has been some knowledges or some skills have been erased from the dictionary of modern life, and then for us we want to use this thing to find and then to put it again as a knowledge or a skills or a knowledge that can be used by anyone. So for example, what we found in a rural area in South Sulawesi of the group of these people practicing natural farming from this ancestors' knowledge, and we're also going to find some of this knowledge and skills with the fishermen, and also maybe people in the mountain or maybe in the jungle. We're sure they have this knowledge, they have these skills that maybe can be compatible with the wounds, the problems, and all the social or political or economic problems that have been caused by the capitalism.
Any other question? Actually, I think by what Ade and Miran talk about, this kind of idea of crafting, actually dealing with what we supposedly recognize the museum goer as the general public into kind of a different audience or different public. So in this way, the museum, I think today in the museum space or even in a museum space, there's already a lot of tendency going on and try to make what we think supposedly the public space into kind of a different kind of difference, into public of difference. And I think that's how we get it more and more interested. And in such a case, the biennial would be the kind of a perfect mechanism and try to reactivate this kind of on public space, sort of kind of response to what we already discussed about what art can do. And now the reverse question goes on. What art cannot do, or what art can undo? And I will pretty much sum up today's conference as such, and that will lead into tomorrow's discussion. Thank you for everyone's participation.